All right, we are late, but we are here. We delayed this one day because Tesla had their big day yesterday. Matt had his big stream with Farzad. Matt's in the office today.
Very special day, in-person double live stream. And I don't know. We're a day late. We're 15 minutes late on top of that. We're only going to go about half an hour today because we got a tight timeline of a couple of the things we have going on. So we'll try to keep this one relatively brief, but just give our thoughts on earnings and a couple of other topics that we're going to get through.
Yeah, so we'll get right to it. Matt's here. He's celebrating my 20 years in the business at Halter Ferguson Financial. So that anniversary was in early April. Thanks for coming down for that. It's pretty cool.
Happy 20 years.
And had some clients that sent some wishes for my 20 years as well. So I've been doing this a long time, been through a lot of crises, and try to help our clients through the ups and downs of the market or Tesla, and try to take advantage of the ups and downs if we can. Not always easy when emotions play a role on you when you're at the peak and at the lows. There's a lot of fear and emotions that play in. So Matt, you were on the call. Or you were on the call with Farzad.
Stream I was not on the official call. Yeah, so that was actually kind of funny for anyone who didn't see the Farzad stream. I thought it was just going to be the normal kind of live stream that we've been doing for a couple of years now, and instead I get on there and he's like, "I've got this Tesla wall connector here. I'm going to give away to whoever has the best joke about Matt's face." So that was a pretty hilarious and surprising little giveaway he was doing. But it was a lot of fun. So yeah, it was call was interesting.
Yeah, we didn't get something magical and new because use the word company update, but yep. I think we did get a clarity on some key items. I would say though that Wall Street probably didn't get the numbers for their spreadsheets, so we'll see how much they loved or hated the call. I'm guessing those notes are coming in already today, but they didn't get info for their spreadsheets except for Tesla starting with 10 to 20 vehicles in Austin. But hopefully that's for like a day or two before they begin to ramp things up. So we got clarity around what that Austin robotaxi rollout will look like. I had some fears going into it. I was worried they would have to use safety drivers, which they do not have to do in Texas. So Elon said it would be fully autonomous. They talked about using some remote operators, like if for some reason the car's getting some kind of loop or whatever, need to be reset, then they'll have remote operators. You would not have remote operators if you have a safety driver in the car, right? So it's going to be fully autonomous. That's a big deal for Tesla's cost. Also, there's no limitation on how many Tesla can field in Texas as far as a regulatory. There's no arbitrary limitation per city that we're aware of. So as Tesla gets comfortable with their software and their system and running these, then I believe they're going to quickly scale. So it's my hope that, if they start with 10 on day one, and let's call it June 15th or something, that as long as nothing happens bad that day, then they'll go to 20 the next day and quickly grow it.
Which, I mean, maybe they're super cautious up front. I mean, maybe they do a week for the first batch, but then it just stands to reason they'll drastically scale up in the coming weeks, because he's talking about multiple cities by the end of the year, and you're not going to get to multiple cities if you're being like overly cautious about Austin and are sticking with only 10 to 20 cars. So I do think they're going to ramp up pretty significantly. And then the other thing he reiterated on tomorrow's call, and I understand some people, or tomorrow's call, that's how little sleep I got last night, on yesterday's call, is that there's gonna be 1 million robo taxis on the road by the end of next year. Now, longtime Tesla investors and commentators are probably gonna have a little PTSD with him announcing 1 million robo taxis on the roads by the end of next year, because we did have that promise a while ago, which was latched onto by Tesla Q as another failed promise of Elon. But I think it completely stands to reason that that's doable. I mean, if there is no limit to the number of these that Tesla can deploy, and essentially every hardware 4, Model Y, X, S3, and Cybertruck can operate as a robotaxi, which again they reiterated yesterday. Then as long as they're in enough cities, nationwide or even internationally potentially, they should be able to operate really large quantity of these next year, and that's where I think we could potentially have a pretty meaningful impact to the company's financials. So that's what I get excited about.
Our first blush research is that there's at least 1 million hardware 4 cars in the United States, that there's 1 million in China, and it stands to reason there's probably about 500,000 or so in Europe. So, maybe there's a bunch of Teslaonaires who won't run their cars as robotaxis, but most people I think are going to be financially motivated to run their cars. We'll see. We think that maybe at least a quarter of people in the U.S. run their hardware 4 cars as robotaxis, and Tesla is building in the United States maybe 600,000 to 800,000 hardware 4 cars. Probably be a little like closer to 600,000 in the U.S. There's about 1 million in China and maybe 200,000 in Europe. Some rough numbers like that.
Yeah. Well, and they're going to start volume production of Cybercab next year, so that's going to start ramping up and should be maybe 100,000 or so by the end of next year. I would imagine at least. That presumably to start would be a company-owned fleet. Maybe they offload a certain number of those to third parties, but to me the question isn't supply, because the supply already exists. It's a matter of how many cities can they deploy to, and then what's the kind of uptick of owners that are willing to put their existing fleet out there for some number of miles. And I suspect if the economics are what we think they're going to be, that will be a very large number.
Yeah, so I think a win would be that they have 10,000 in Texas between the cities of Austin, Dallas, and Houston. We'll see by year end. We'll see what Tesla ends up doing. I think it'd be great if they can have a level of service that we experienced with Uber and Lyft, where you waited for like 2 to 3 minutes before your ride came, and that happened in like 2019, and like the cost per mile was less than $2. I think that would be great and a really compelling product. We got some confirmation around Optimus. Saw pictures of the assembly station where humans for now are making the Optimus. They can make 4 at a time on one side, and I think there was another side to it.
We got a picture up right here.
Yeah, another side to it where they could also make more, or there's plenty of room in there.
I did get some Westworld vibes with this. Like it is a little futuristic and kind of strange looking, seeing all these like humans building humanoids, and it's an exciting future, but it's also like somewhat dystopian. I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too melodramatic about it, but like it's going to change the world, mostly in good ways. But there's going to be a lot of changes. I think a lot of people are not ready for.
Well, Matt, I will say I love your face. Could scoot up a little bit. You're looking a little small compared to me.
Wow.
I think you're maybe worried about being a little too tall. You are taller than me.
I'm just tired. I'm leaning back in my chair.
All right.
I love your face too.
So the disappointment with Optimus is it may be dependent on rare earth metals, and that may be a limiting factor in how quickly they can scale if they don't get some kind of special export permission from China this year. Or
they can design around this. I mean, this is something where you presumably you'd have a less performant, motor, if you had to get those rare earths out. But this is something Tesla's been very good at. I mean, look at what they've done with the LFP cells, and to like take cobalt out of their supply chain, for example. There's a lot of stuff that's like, well, like you just need the cobalt. So yeah, sure, there's child labor involved, but you just kind of need to have it. Like they just figured out how to work around that because it was such a horrible issue that the company took seriously. So while this is a bad bit of news right now, I think necessity is the mother of creation, and Tesla is extremely good at creating solutions to problems like this. So whether it's through political savvy in China, which they've demonstrated with their ability to fully own the plant locally, which literally no company's ever done before, or if they just literally strip out those several rare earths that are being used right now. I suspect they'll get to a good answer because they've got some time before this is commercialized.
Mm. Tesla has been running cars in Austin for a while. We found out 25 or 1,500 trips, roughly 15,000 miles so far. Elon mentioned the Model Ys running loops around Austin in the call. So that was some good news. I think they're driverless in Austin. We did see a video from Tesla AI where they showed the trips that are being given in California. Those because of the regulation being different, those do have to have a safety driver. I really like the video, so let's go take a look at that. Tesla is bringing the future to the present.
So first reaction to that, safety driver, obviously. So that was a bit surprising because based on Elon's comments on the call yesterday, we're thinking no safety driver. This video they dropped today does show a safety driver. I think the easy answer to that is that looked like a California video, not a Texas video.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just the regulations there, but I think it would have looked a lot cooler if they had just shown a Texas, Cybertruck is a Texas Robo taxi with no safety driver. But even if they have to do some safety drivers to start, I think that's probably not the end of the world. But given how fast they want to roll out here, I think kind of getting safety drivers out of the loop is really critical for the economics to make sense.
There was also a tweet from Omid. A post.
How dare you?
From my apologies. From Omid Ashbar. He is the right hand of Elon Musk. And this was from today, super recent. So he says this is going to be a game changer. I've taken our robo taxis all over Austin, from downtown to getting dropped right in front of Giga Texas. Full self-driving is remarkable. Can't wait for our launch this summer. Driverless, unsupervised FSD, and the convenience it brings will blow people away. It is the future.
Yeah, I think this is something that people who are driving FSD on hardware 4 already know. There's not a leap in your mind of what needs to happen in order to see a robotaxi future. But I think there's a lot of people that either haven't driven it or maybe drove an old version of it or are driving a hardware 3 version where it's I could see them maybe solving this someday, but they've actually solved it now. It seems. I'd love if they shared some additional stats around, what their miles per critical intervention are or something like that. Yeah. But anecdotally, it seems like it's got to be at least 1 per 10,000 miles. I don't know. Maybe that's just my anecdote, but there are pretty much no mistakes ever that I'm seeing as I'm doing my drives.
Matt and I, we just met a couple who own a hardware 3 Model Y from 2020. And we gave them a ride in the new Model Y with the hardware 4 and all the stuff that the new Model Y has, and they were just blown away by how different and better the FSD is, and how much more refined the new Model Y is.
Yeah, I remember we got to this one particular point doing a roundabout as there's a bunch of them around here, and they're like, "Oh, like my car would have just like completely given up right here. It's just like there's too much activity." And I think those of us who had the hardware 3, cars with FSD before, like we got into those situations where it's complicated. Maybe there's pedestrians, maybe there's like a lot of cars, and it's like not exactly clear. There might be like a very tight window where you need to be aggressive into this one window. And hardware 4 just does that now with the latest version, but hardware 3, like, it does not. It's kind of a hot mess. And so I think if your experience is that you're only seeing like it kind of fails at these complicated situations, or sometimes even fails in pretty mundane situations, which is the more alarming thing on hardware 3. This might seem like the future in like a like distant future kind of thing, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot in these live streams, but it is so important, I think, for Tesla investors to either buy a new hardware 4 car or to like do some demo drives, get the experience.
Test drive today.
It's like it's extremely helpful in building conviction, because like you don't have to hope that they do solve it. It's there in my mind.
So there's been some other things going on, some macro stuff. We also just had the whole earnings thing. You were the closest Tesla retail person. Well, Meyer Thacker was technically closer to you than you. He was at 25 cents, but I don't think I don't know if he gives a estimate every quarter, but like of the regulars, you were at 31 cents. You were on the low side. You were closer than everyone else and closer than Wall Street.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen all the time, but I think that was a nice kind of indication of what we've been saying for several months on here, which is that this is going to be a bad quarter. And I mean, I think we were on these live streams like literally 2 or 3 months ago saying this earnings is going to be about 20 to 30 cents, and that was like half of where Wall Street was at the time. So a little bit of vindication. I was secretly hoping we were wrong, but it was kind of hard to see where we would have been wrong once we started doing the digging of how significant the discounting was on the older Model Ys, and frankly, just how low the volumes were. And like people who were coming up with 40 cents or more, I was like, I honestly don't know how you get that math to work. It just, I felt like they must have been kind of papering over some stuff to get numbers that high. So yeah, good to be right, but bad that it was so bad. But that said, it was kind of interesting watching the stocks. When the numbers came in, I kind of assumed that the stock would have dropped, and we did see it like, it was like green. It was like up $5, and it was down $5, and it kind of like
wavered,
wavering for a little while while the market was digesting that earnings report. But what was a little heartening to me was that like the market seemed to be kind of moving past the numbers themselves. The market, I think, with this huge slide, down 50% or so off the recent highs. The market, in my mind, had fully digested the fact that we're going to have a bad quarter now, and now it's moving forward and saying even with some of the bad language in the letter about like soft demand for the short term, which wasn't great to hear, but we want to be realistic about everything that's going on with the stock, even though we are bulls. Even like with the bad quarterly results and the weak kind of guidance on the short term for demand, the market was really rallying. Now, some of this was certainly Trump. I mean, when the Trump kind of post about not wanting to be getting a fight with China, for exactly how he worded it, but that's when markets in general started really rallying. But even before that happened, the stock was relatively stable, given what you could construe as some bad words, some bad news coming out of the report. So that was, I think, kind of heartening. And then I think what's happening now, Bradford, be curious your thought, but seems like the market is now looking forward to the next phase of the company's growth trajectory. And I think it's giving some credit to this robotaxi future, certainly not full credit. But I think when you can digest a bad earnings report like that with like no change to the stock or rallying even a little bit, to me, that says that the story is focused on autonomy. Was that your takeaway also?
Yeah, that it's beginning to do that, because we didn't really get any good news in the auto thing. Move your chair up like a full 3 inches or more. Just get like uncomfortably close to my desk. There you go. That's better. Yeah. Matt is much taller than me. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think so, because we didn't get any comfort around a Tesla compact. I call it the Tesla Q. Some people call it the Model 2. We didn't get anything around that. So, beyond that, people need to look forward. Yeah, I hear people, there was someone who said, well, I think the annual run rate for Tesla Robotaxi is only going to be 100 million toward the end of 2027. And I'm like, okay, have you done the actual math on that? So, what that would mean is essentially that it'd be 2,000 Tesla owned cars are doing about like 60,000 miles, essentially. Because you have like some dead miles. So I was like, okay, have you actually done the math to see like how many cars that actually is?
Yeah.
And I don't think they have. They just think, oh, 100 million revenue run rate. That sounds like a big number. So I'm guessing Wall Street is starting to do some napkin math. They're starting to piece some things together in a spreadsheet. Maybe they're looking at how like Uber's cost per mile and things like that.
Yeah, I suspect they are, because this is something that like I've seen other people do, and like people look at Uber as a good comp, which I think it's not, because Tesla can so drastically undercut them. But like even still, like in my own model, where we're looking at this math in a very detailed way, like I've got the Uber TAM in terms of miles driven in there, so that as you're kind of getting close to that and then surpassing, the total Uber miles driven, you obviously have to undercut them at price. So in my mind, it's like a good gut check of like how you get the numbers to work. But it's completely crazy to just assume there'll be like only 100,000 vehicles. When you look at the cost per mile on this, like especially for a cybercab, which is going to be designed to be as cheap as possible, and you like fully loaded all the costs on a like dollar per mile basis, I think even if you go conservative, you'd come up with 20 to 30 cents on like a cost per mile.
Yeah.
So if that's the cost, then like you're going to undercut a lot of forms of transportation, and that's going to be massively disruptive. And I think that's the part where like people's brains just like that can't be right, and so they just shut off, and they'd be like, all right, well let's give them credit for 100,000, because that seems like more reasonable.
Yeah, let's dial it back. So when we take our Wall Street reports to the mutual fund managers, and we can really defend that number and be like, oh, it's really safe.
Yeah, and then you come up with a price target. Like I think Tesla's worth $350 because we're giving them, like $2 of like earnings credit for Robotaxi at a nice multiple. So we think there's a nice upside from here. But it's like that's just like a baby step in the direction of the truth. I believe it's not like a first principles analysis of how disruptive fully autonomous transportation is going to be to the whole market. So we're starting to get bulled up. We were expressing a lot of caution the last several months as weak demand and this Model Y changeover was becoming apparent. But I think with where we are right now, certainly some more short-term risk. I don't want to minimize, but we're real close to the autonomous future.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about.
Hey Farzad! Oh look, it's Matt. Great, so happy. That's a random post from Farzad. Where's the insult? For those who didn't catch Farzad's thing, we said that at the beginning.
Yeah, he literally paid people to insult Matt, and then he had Matt pick the best insult.
Yeah, that was like
he totally outsourced everything.
It was like
it's like the Farzad tariff right there.
It was like a tariff, but it was also like a hostage situation. Like I was on his channel, and he's like, choose your torture. It was a little, I don't know, something a little Machiavellian about it.
I kind of liked it.
No, it was good. It was actually a really good time.
The best joke was, do you remember it word for word?
No, I don't remember it word for word. It was something to the effect of Matt's face is like the Q1 report. It's super disappointing, yet we're all still here watching anyways.
We're still invested.
Invested, that's what it was.
Yeah, we're still invested. So let's talk a little bit about Tesla in the future.
I'm for it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to trying it out. But I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of people that try to do this in June, and from the sounds of it, Tesla's not going to have that many vehicles running. So I may wait till a little later, even though I'll be super excited. I'll be watching from the stands. So hopefully people that do get these rides, they take some videos and show us how it goes.
Do you think that's what it takes? Because like I've been kind of puzzling about this for the last couple of days. Like you can literally just go and do a demo of hardware 4, which is like the same software essentially that's going to be running on these cybercabs with like a couple small tweaks.
Yeah.
But it was even obvious from at least one of the questions on the earnings call yesterday that some of these analysts haven't tried it. And it's like, so.
Yeah. So there's a question about LiDAR. I think sometimes these analyst questions are because like a client still isn't sold on the vision only approach. So the client of the analyst, asked them to ask us on the call. And essentially the question was about glare. And major Tesla bulls that dig in, they know that the cameras that Tesla uses and like the software in the cameras, it is not affected by glare. So they, if you have like a super bright sun and this is the spot, like this is the only part of the image that the sun impacts, and the rest of the image is visible. And so like we already know this. We also know that in rain and fog, us humans are actually impacted by glare by those things, and the camera is not, and it can see through those much better than we can. So that was a waste of a question, but I do think Tesla dodged some of the questions. So Pierre Ferragu asked, he was basically saying the 3 and the Y are the best cars in the world. It's the best product. And that's kind of how you and Farzad ended with Tesla last night. It is
the best product.
It the best products on the road, cost per mile, safety, performance, convenience. Like you charge your car at home, and they're fun.
Yeah,
they're more fun than gas cars. Like they are the best cars on the road. So why aren't we selling more Teslas as a portion of just the luxury car market where they're about 15%, or the EV car market or whatever? And basically asking Elon, hey, why don't we advertise or raise awareness?
Yeah, good question.
What can we do? That's a common question. And Tesla tried it. They measured it. I don't think they tried long enough. When you advertise,
it didn't seem like a serious push into advertising. It seemed like let's appease this annoying question
the shareholders
that the shareholders keep asking.
Yeah. There was another one where they had a little bit of a dodge in what they were answering. So I didn't feel like the analyst questions were terrible. And I do think we got some detail from Robo Taxi and all that. So I overall I was happy.
I'd say I was happy too, but like even one of the things they said, which was bullish, I didn't think was that bullish. And that was a record high in demo drives that they had in the quarter. And I was like, if you really wanted to like convince us that there's no demand problem, you'd say something about how orders are high, but instead you're talking about demo drives. So it's like a derivative indicator of demand instead of the thing itself, which you definitely have a measure on, and you chose not to give any information about. And in fact, the information you gave is that a warning that it might be a little soft. So I'm not optimistic in the short term. I think my own kind of volume forecast for the next couple of quarters are probably going to come down a bit. So I'm going to be a little cautious about that. I think we're in for a little bit more pain on the short-term earnings front, but I think my attention and everyone's attention really should be on, this kind of massive uptick in value that Elon talks about when the fleet all of a sudden can, overnight become cash flow generating machines.
So I want to end on a positive note. So they said the ramp for the Model Y is going better than any ramp. I don't think they said they were fully ramped.
They didn't quite say that, but they said it was faster and better than other ones.
So I think the second quarter will be down compared to where the third quarter will be, but that it'll be a much more profitable, because like you won't be taking that full hit on your most profitable car for the whole quarter. So I think second quarter will be much better financially, but we're looking further down the road. Curious how things change with the Austin rollout, and how quickly they scale it, how quickly they move into other cities in Texas. Once they're comfortable with that, how quickly they move into a state like Florida, where autonomy is allowed, and cities can't make their own rules. So I'm hopeful that they go to Florida after Texas. I think the road through California is important. There's a lot of Tesla people there,
Yeah.
and Tesla's in there, but I think we want to go through the low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of tourism in Florida. There's a lot of people too.
Yeah.
So excited about that. And again, congrats on the call. I think you had a strong showing on Farzad's live stream. I enjoyed watching it. And I'm really excited for what Tesla has to share with us with autonomy. We're driving it every day and really loving it. And he's Matt Smith. I'm Bradford Ferguson.
He's Bradford Ferguson.
And with that, we're going to say bye for now.
Bye for now.